Hello guys, this is Paula with Paula's Imperfect Plans, and I'm coming back today. So I do this where I start working on something and then I'm like, oh, that would have been something great to film if I was looking to do like a budget with me. So today I sat down to do a 5-minute budget check-in because that's one of my goals, one of the things that I'm working on for a daily habit as part of my power sheets. So you would see that in that video when that comes out. So that I don't get behind or overwhelmed on budgeting. So to kind of keep up on that, just to write down, to come back and see what, transactions cleared the account, any other, purchases made, that kind of thing. So that led me into this planning out. So this is this week's, we get paid this week. We get paid every 2 weeks. And so this is, that. So I realized, since I had it open to this page, I just kind of did a little bit of a run through of checking, I found out the exact amount of my paycheck because we don't get it till Friday, but in our system, it's already like approved as payroll. So I know the exact amount, and I was just updating some things in here. And so that led me to, we actually had some things that I realized this past month that led me into, I'm going to call it a pickle. It's not really a pickle, but sometimes it's part of budgeting journey, if you will. And so I was coming in here to do some more math on that. So our car insurance and our homeowner's insurance are both lumped into one sinking fund. I pay them every 6 months. So they come due in May. And I realized when we got the policy update, like the declarations page or whatever for our auto insurance. We get that before we get the bill. And I was looking through that and I noticed it was significantly higher than what we paid last in November. And it must have just been an error on my end. I don't have, I don't have anything right now that would have showed the math. I know that we got a different vehicle last November, and I remember cutting a separate check for the difference between what our insurance policy was with our old truck versus with our new truck on it. So that's pretty typical. We've switched vehicles in our life enough that I'm familiar with that. But I guess I didn't do the math or didn't do the math correctly, or some error happened between, so I paid, the difference in November, but then as far as setting aside the money, the correct amount of money monthly from November to May to have enough, I didn't do that or whatever. That our insurance policies just increased significantly, which is possible because our homeowner's insurance increased by like $60 in 6 months, which doesn't seem like very much, but it's been for the last 7 or 8 years, it's been consistent. So I'm assuming due to just the cost of materials and what it would cost to replace my home, that should something happen, that would account for the increase in that. And so maybe vehicles are the same way with everything going on, or maybe it was my math, or maybe a combination of both. But as I look in here, and I decided to do some math to figure out, what I have in my home and car insurance sinking fund versus what the bills are right now, because I verified, that came in, the homeowner's insurance one came in the mail, and then so did the other one. So I accessed that and I did that math. Well, that led me to checking on the car gas sinking fund because of the car insurance, and we have some graduation parties this week, and I'm trying to budget for some other things. I feel like I'm short in the area of car gas. So I did some math based on what we have in our car insurance, our car gas, sinking fund. And I know what my reimbursement check coming here in a couple, probably next week, is going to be. And so I did some math on that, which led me to, this is kind of how I cleaned my house too. It led me to going back and looking at my calendar here and paying attention to when my last fills were. So we filled our bulk gas tank on 12/29, so right before the end of the year. Then we filled again toward the end of February, and then April 12th was our last fill. And so if we stay on par, I'm not gonna have to worry about another gas fill till probably late this month, early next month, which means billing either in June or maybe not till July if we hold off until June. So I have the ability to not put money aside in this paycheck for gas for car gas like I typically would. And so I'm just putting my reimbursement check in the gas sinking fund, and then I can make sure that I'm good on car insurance and not focus on car gas right now. Okay, so that was how I started all of this, figuring that out, which led me into summer daycare. That is where I have been funneling the vast majority of my extra money because I have 3 children who all need childcare. 2 of them are in school right now full-time without a cost. I'm not paying anything for them to be anywhere. I'm just paying for 1 child in daycare. And so starting the day after Memorial Day, that Tuesday, I will be paying for 3 kids full-time in daycare from May 27th or whatever that date is through August 22nd. And so I was doing some math. And so I sat here on my computer doing all the math of what I have, what the math should be for all 3 kids. And then I know that there's some different things where like there'll be a week that my son won't be at the daycare because he's got a church thing that week. And then there's what else? And then there's a couple different like camps through like our 4-H extension program that I might have him go to. So those would be days he wouldn't be in daycare. And then my mom has said she'd like to take like 1 kid per week, like 1 kid 1 day per week. So, you know, my oldest 1 week and then my middle the next week and then the baby the 3rd week. So just, it would be one week. Every week there would be 1 day where I wouldn't have to pay for 1 kid. So I was just doing some rough math and going through and really just trying to take out holidays and all of this stuff to try to get myself to figure out how close I am to that amount in that sinking fund for the difference, which led me to realizing that if I continue to, so I have the current paycheck and then the next paycheck, half of that, so I pay like on a Friday for the next 2 weeks. So when I get paid on the 19th, there will be 1 week of just my youngest going and then 1 week of all 3 of them going in that budget. So I did the math of kind of what I thought for that and then figuring out where I was in the sinking fund minus, you know, what the total bill for daycare is going to be for all 3 of them minus what I typically pay and how many weeks I can pay for it with the sinking fund. So then how much I would need to, because I can increase my daycare budget a little bit every 2 weeks. I wouldn't have to have it all ahead of time. I can increase the typical amount that I would pay for one every 2 weeks and compensate some of it there so I didn't have to have it all in sinking fund. So that's what I think I'm going to be paying every 2 weeks out of my budget, plus maybe that much from the daycare sinking fund to get to my total daycare bill. Anyway, so I was doing all that math as we were sitting here, and I was like, that might have been an interesting process for somebody to watch me struggle my way through. And in the end, it doesn't have to be perfect. There is some wiggle room. Like, I feel like my budget is tight, but at the end, if there's a couple weeks where there's an increased amount of daycare beyond what I've thought, then there is, and I'll figure that out at that point in time. But I'm doing my best to get as close as I can now because I can up my daycare budget a little bit, but I also don't want to be overdoing myself on daycare all summer for no reason. So I wanted to have kind of an idea of where I was going. So I kind of got daycare situated and figured out. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. And then I went through kind of given all that things. I'm budgeting for some extra categories that I haven't in the past. I'm going to get the car insurance figured out. Insurance will be done for this, you know, for 6 months. And then I did some math based on the bill that we have now, and I rounded up. And then I divided it by 6. So starting in June, I divided it by 6, and then I rounded up again because I don't want to have too little. So I have figured out for the next 6 months what's going to go into my insurance sinking fund. I've had a really productive day as far as budgeting goes. So that's what I'm doing, and I might come back and show this a little bit actually as I walk through it to see what all I'm going to be doing on Friday when I get paid. I have been tracking all of my spending, putting them in the appropriate categories. Again, I don't know yet. The only thing I care about is this miscellaneous and this extra eating out that we haven't budgeted for, and maybe household, because I don't budget for household things. I just pull it out of a miscellaneous buffer that I give myself at the end after our paychecks are like budgeted down pretty close to zero. So those are mainly the three things. Like, I'd like to know this. If I can know what household expenses are, I can plan better for it and maybe add a category in for it. And then miscellaneous, what are those miscellaneous expenses? I know that they're things, whatever, it is what it is. So I've been working on that, and yeah, so that's just my little budgeting spiel of what I was able to accomplish today with our budget, with my few minutes. It was supposed to be a 5-minute check-in that turned into like a 20-minute rabbit hole of figuring out sinking funds and big expenses for the next few months. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're interested at all in sticking around, please subscribe. Thank you if you already have, and have a great day.